And good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to our members of the media. Today, Orange County Mayor Demings will discuss our COVID-19 numbers and Phase 2 reopening here in Orange County. Mayor Demings will also discuss a program from our MLK initiative as it relates to what's happening with our social climate here in Orange County. Mayor Buddy Dyer is also here, and we will discuss activity in the city as well as what is taking place with protests and other initiatives in the city beautiful. Dr. Raul Pino from the Florida Department of Health in Orange County has new information on our testing numbers and other important data. And last and certainly not least, Comptroller Phil Diamond is also here to discuss the latest TDT revenue information. We start with Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings. Mayor.
Good afternoon to all of you, and I realize that you all are exceptionally busy these days, much like many of us. But thank you for coming out and participating in this press conference. As we reopen Orange County, it has been a thoughtful and a methodical process that we have gone through as we endeavor to do so safely. So this afternoon, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the efforts that we are putting forward to ensure that it's a safe reopening. Not long ago, you all know that Governor DeSantis announced that the state of Florida will be moving to Phase 2 of the reopening of Florida. And with that, there were new guidelines that were put in place. But the backdrop of what we're dealing with here still remains relevant. Orange County has a total of 2,121 cases, and there have been 41 deaths in our county. We have tested nearly 75,000 individuals, and we have a positivity rate of 2.8%. I accentuate the 2.8% because with that low number, it is what really gives us the confidence to be able to open and reopen Orange County for business itself. Statewide, the coronavirus positivity rate remains at around 5.4%. We have a lot going on, though, throughout America, as many communities are experiencing protests about police use of force. You are well aware of that. So I announced today that we will be doing a town hall entitled Candid Conversations with Our Community this Friday from 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. This session will serve as a forum for local leaders to engage the community regarding the recent occurrences, both national and locally, surrounding the death of George Floyd and police-related issues. That will be a virtual town hall that we will do, and we will have representatives from various elected offices from the federal government to state officials to local officials, and then other community advocates and leaders who will participate in that, and we'll give the community the opportunity to also weigh in about the present circumstances. This is a first step to bring local leaders, clergy, and law enforcement together to develop long and short-term strategies to address the issues facing our society. The discussion was centered on seeking solutions to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. I urge all residents to go to our website at ocfl.net/MLK for more information. Earlier this afternoon, the Orange County Convention Center presented its reopening plans to the Economic Recovery Task Force. The pandemic had a negative impact on our local economy. In fact, it was over a $1 billion negative economic impact on our local economy alone. 20 shows have rescheduled, that were scheduled for shows at the Convention Center. 20 shows have rescheduled with an economic impact anticipated of $375 million. 32 shows, however, canceled with an economic loss of $734 million. In just a few moments, you're going to hear from Comptroller Dyer, who will talk about the declining TDC, the Tourist Development Council tax or revenues have declined here within Orange County. It's no surprise. You'll hear from him when he'll talk about what those revenues were for the month of April. And as we move forward, as we reopen, it is our belief that those revenues will recover. They will return over time to pre-pandemic periods. The plan has a three-pronged strategy to safeguard the clients and attendees and employees at our convention center as we reopen it. The convention center will follow CDC recommendations as well as other industry best practices. In addition, the convention center is pursuing an accreditation from the Global Biorisk Advisory Council, which is considered the gold standard of safe and sanitary venues. We believe this will be a desirable certification that will reassure clients and shows of Orange County's commitment to being one of the safest and cleanest facilities in the world. Our goal is to ensure we maintain a competitive edge as we seek to recover and book future shows. We look forward to taking these steps as our three largest theme parks, Universal Orlando, SeaWorld, and Walt Disney World, get ready to reopen. We must consider having a layered approach to this reopening strategy that ensures consistency in sanitation protocols that will be put in place. With that, we know that making certain that there are ample supplies of PPE in our community remains consistent. It has been a busy day for us at Barnett Park. Nearly 2,500 small businesses have picked up free, reusable cloth face masks. Tomorrow, another 2,500 small business owners are expected to converge on Downey Park to pick up their free personal protective equipment. All online appointments are being taken through our website. We're excited that we're able to assist these 5,000 small Orange County businesses by giving away 150,000 cloth masks and 100,000 bottles of hand sanitizer. Free PPE is also being distributed when residents visit an Orange County Health Services test site, which is today at Apopka High School through tomorrow. Anyone who donates to the One Blood Centers also receives a free packet of PPE. Again, to get additional information about the free distributions, you can go to our website at ocfl.net/PPE. Yesterday, Governor DeSantis extended the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures to July the 1st. I want to remind rent-stressed residents that we have put together answers to frequently asked questions to help navigate tenant rights, evictions, and other housing assistance information. We ask you to visit our website also at ocfl.net/housing FAQs on our webpage to see information published in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. We also have videos produced by Orange TV that feature subject matter experts in regards to navigating the housing-related issues. On Monday, we published information on our website regarding the county's federal CARES Act programs for small businesses and residents. I want to urge small businesses and residents to review the eligibility criteria, required documents, and frequently asked questions before applications open on Monday. In just a few days, Monday, June the 8th, we will begin accepting applications for the business and individual assistance. The Small Business Grant Program provides $10,000 in grant money to small businesses located in Orange County, and that is inclusive of the municipalities, to help offset lost revenue that they may have experienced related to COVID-19. The individual and family assistance programs for residents provide a one-time payment of $1,000 per household to bridge financial gaps for overdue rent, mortgage payments, or medical-related issues, or an eligible utility expense. Orange County was one of the first counties, if not the first county in Florida to provide this type of assistance to its residents. For both programs, they are limited, however. It's a first-come, first-served basis, and again, we have information that is published on our website at ocfl.net/Orange Cares. At this time, I'm going to ask Mayor Buddy Dyer to come forward and share with you information as well. Mayor Dyer.
Thank you, Mayor Demings. Thank you all for, excuse me, for being here. Well, a lot of our community's been preoccupied with protests and demonstrations that have been going on the last several days. I want to remind everybody that our work to fight COVID-19 is not done, and we, like Mayor Demings, believe that testing remains critically important as we enter into phase 2 under the governor's order on Friday. We continue to host our free mobile drive-through and pedestrian accessible testing sites in neighborhoods. We'll be doing that through the end of June. Our first 6 sites, one each in each of our commission districts, tested over 1,000 people. We'll be going to an every Wednesday schedule. So next Wednesday, June the 10th, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., we'll be testing at Lake Nona Middle School. It's open to Orlando and Orange County residents over the age of 18. To make an appointment, you can go to orlando.gov/COVID-19 testing. I want to remind everybody, even as we enter into phase 2, that physical distancing and face masks are also critical as we move forward. And I would remind the folks that are protesting peacefully outside to please wear face coverings as well, because I can't imagine with a gathering of 4,000 or 5,000 people that there aren't some people in that group that would test positive if they were tested. As we enter phase 2 with the opening on Friday, our staff has also developed plans to reopen safely our city facilities. Our small group summer camps at neighborhood centers got underway on Monday. We've reopened the tennis center. We've reopened 6 city pools, the skate park, the Lake Eola Swan Boat Rentals, the Manila Museum, and our Discover Downtown. For city facilities, there will be temperature screenings and limiting of capacities and hours. And I would also remind you that this morning we announced that in addition to the countywide 10 p.m. Curfew. Couldn't draw that. In addition to the countywide 10 p.m. curfew in our downtown starting this evening, we will have an 8 p.m. curfew. Dr. Pino?
Thank you, Mayor. As mentioned, Demings just mentioned, we have 2,121 cases in the county. 411 of those cases are on active phase. We continue to be at 2.0% of positivity rate, and about 86% of the people have recovered. The county has tested a total of 74,935 individuals. There is not in the data, but because it was just offered to me, Mayor. We have our 42th fatality. I just want to announce it as we got the information. It is a 93-year-old male, non-Hispanic, unknown exposure. And this individual was in one of our assisted living facilities, and it was one of the tests that was detected through our strike teams that we have done around facilities. I also would like you to have this information, and it's a little bit confusing, but I'm going to try to put it straight. So yesterday, 6/2, June 2, we received 1,970 negative results, and we received 68 positive results yesterday. For a 3.3% return rate for that day, positivity rate. The day before, 6/1, we received 129 cases only and 14 positive, and that gives us a high positivity rate of 9.8. We are in the process of assessing the data. 129 negative cases is not a normal day load of cases, so we will have to look into that. We also did a exhaustive and extensive data analysis that is quite long, but the county continued to perform well, although we have seen an increase in the number of cases that were suspected. But we have a few areas that we are intensively working at to try to contain any further spread of the infection. With that, I will pass the microphone to Phil Diamond from the Comptroller's Office.
Thank you, Dr. Pino. Well, good afternoon. I am here to announce our tourist development tax collections for the month of April 2020. The collections for the month were $765,900. That is a 97% decrease from April of 2019. Just to put this in context, I wanted to share a few facts. First of all, our office has been collecting and administering the tourist development tax since 1992, and the tourist development tax was first approved in 1979 at the rate of 2 cents. Now it's 6 cents per dollar. By way of background, this is the smallest amount of TDT we have ever collected in 1 month. This performance compared to last year is the largest drop we've ever had, either in dollar terms or percentage terms. And the amount we collected is comparable to 1980 on a penny-by-penny basis. And to put that in context, in 1980, you had one park at Walt Disney World. You had the Magic Kingdom, and you had SeaWorld. You didn't have Epcot. You didn't have MGM Studios. And you also didn't have Universal Studios. So that's something of an apples to apples comparison for you. Although the level of decline in the collections is unprecedented, it was not completely unexpected. The economy, especially the tourism sector, was basically shut down for the month of April. And for the same reason, we believe that May's collections will probably be comparable to this month's collections. That said, Universal and many smaller attractions will be open by the end of this week. SeaWorld will reopen later this month, and Disney World will begin reopening next month. These are all positive developments for the tourist development tax and the collection of it. They're positive developments for our economy, and most importantly, they're positive developments for the residents whose jobs depend on the industry. However, it will take months to see how the reopening plays out. In the meantime, we are fortunate to have healthy TDT reserves that can help the county weather this economic storm, and I'm committed to closely monitoring and analyzing the effects this unimaginable pandemic has had on our economy, and will continue to work with the mayor and his staff as they develop strategies to address these challenges. We expect to release the May TDT numbers in early July, and I'll be happy to answer questions when we have the question and answer period. Thank you.
Okay, we will go to questions, and I'm not sure I see any of our Spanish media television representatives here. So what I would say to the other, if you are Spanish-speaking media for print radio, feel free to, during this session, ask your questions if you would like to in Spanish, and we will try to translate and get a response that way. So, and I'll rely on Ms. Ilia Torres to help translate if necessary for me. So, any questions?
Hi, Lara Greenberg, Fox 35. Just regarding the TDT dollars, if you can touch on how that money is typically used and how this really impacts Central Florida.
The tourist development tax funds that are collected, of course, they're collected when you stay in our hotel rooms. And while hotels were really deemed essential businesses, many of them either were completely shut down for a period of time or they had drastically reduced occupancy rates. And so from the collections, as the Comptroller talked about here, those dollars can be used for multiple purposes. Historically, they have been used to support the building or expansion of some of our venues here within Orange County, such as the Orange County Convention Center, the Amway Arena, the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center, the expansion of the Camping World Stadium, and some of the dollars have been used as sports incentives to really go after and market some of the sporting events that we have here in our area, from AAU matches, NBA or Pro Bowl or NBA All-Star games. It has been used to help bring some of those events into our community, to World Cup soccer over time, to Olympic soccer and the like in our community. And then we have used some of the funds to support the arts here within our community, where some of the community-based organizations provide performances and entertainment. We have helped with some of that. Some of the dollars have gone to support other venues, such as the Pulse Memorial Site and other things. So this is how we have used those dollars to improve the overall, I think, community assets for our community itself. Okay, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I guess, was there anything that you had planned to use it for next that is now being impacted?
Yes, we had intended to use TDT revenues for the expansion of the convention center. We had a planned $605 million expansion there that will cause us to look at the phasing of that expansion project. It will be based upon the revenues that will come in, so we may have to delay portions of that. Unlike the federal government, we cannot run deficits. We cannot spend more than what we take in. Our budgets have to balance, and so it is absolutely critical to the overall quality of life that we enjoy in this community, that these dollars are used to leverage and improve the overall quality of life for all residents of Orange County. And hopefully this 2 or 3 month period of time that we have experienced so far with the pandemic is coming to at least an end. Hopefully we have bottomed out and we are beginning to climb back to where we were pre-pandemic, and that will take some time. None of us have a crystal ball. We're not sure how long it will take for us to recover economically in this community, but I believe that we will recover. As we reopen now with these theme parks, what that will bring is additional people who will stay in our hotels. And when additional people stay in our hotels, the tourist development tax revenues will increase. And I started out by sharing with you that while we saw 20 of the shows that had booked, for example, with the convention center, had rescheduled, and that booking is about $375 million in economic impact that we have rebooked. But 32 of those shows have yet to rebook, and that's a negative economic impact of $734 million. So if you just look at the two alone, just from our convention-related business, that's over $1 billion in economic impact that we experience from that alone, not counting the other impacts on other industries here within our community. It has been extraordinary.
Stephanie Quinn, Spectrum News 13. Mayor Demings, you had mentioned the tourist development tax revenue loss impacting the quality of life for residents. For folks out there who are listening and they're wondering, how does that impact my quality of life? How would you respond to that?
That will impact many because of loss of jobs or either loss of hours at your existing jobs. That means that those individuals who are not working and not spending in the community, and so some are going to be impacted directly. The largest single site employer that we have in America is Walt Disney World, and they had 77,000 employees at that single work site pre-COVID. As you know, 43,000 employees were furloughed. That means that they were out of work and had to make an adjustment. So that impacted those 43,000 different households directly here within this community. Sometimes the programs where we reach out to underprivileged children who may be able to go to a free show or what have you at the Performing Arts Center, there are no shows going on there. So in terms of the cultural enrichment that we have as a community, we will go without for a period of time. Now, I think the good news here is that we know that none of this is going to last forever. We know that we will recover from that as we reopen. So that's what I will say to those families who have not been able to pay rent, who have not been able to purchase food like perhaps they were prior to the pandemic. The other community-based organizations, social service providers have been able to step up and bridge that gap. When those hotels are shut down, when Disney shuts down, it impacts even our food supply. The Second Harvest Food Bank, for example, receives, when Disney and all of them are working fully, each day there are food supplies that are left over from various events at these major theme parks that is given away to Second Harvest, that is redistributed within the community to fill that gap of where there's food insufficiency within our community. So when they shut down, it creates challenges even for Second Harvest that provides some 300,000 plus meals a day to different segments of our communities. So you can see that it's all interrelated, so it can be a significant impact on our entire community.
Hello, this is Alibet Suarez with Mass 100.7 FM. My question is for either Mayor Demings or Dr. Pino. Basically, what aspects help determine that Orange County is ready for phase 2 of reopening?
What determines whether we're ready or not really are those low numbers that Dr. Pino talked about. It's when we have effectively slowed down the spread of the virus within our community. We haven't stopped it because he told you that there were a few days where we, in terms of the positivity rate, it crept up. But overall, that positivity rate is 2.8%, so it's very low. Comparatively speaking to other communities, that is a fraction of perhaps what it is in some other large urban areas like Chicago and other places like that, New York. So it has allowed us to be able to open with confidence. Today, when Governor DeSantis announced the phase 2 reopening, he did so for 64 of Florida's 67 counties. The 3 counties that did not reopen, that he did not authorize moving to phase 2 was Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade. Why? Because their experience of positive cases within their counties is significantly higher than here within Orange County.
Deanna Albritton, Channel 9. 2 things. One, what was that exact number for the amount of TDT revenues for this month? And also, are you all looking at projections for how long it could take to get back to kind of normal with those TDT revenues?
So I'll take the first or the last question first. Yes, we have projections. We did a presentation a couple of board meetings ago to the Board of County Commission based on projections done by Dr. Sean Snaith and other economists. So there was a best case scenario, a mid scenario, worst case scenario that was presented. So we know that over time, from the post 9/11 era, if you will, and some other things, horrific things that happened in our country, we know how long it took us to recover from that. Until we have a vaccine for this virus in the world and have availability of it in our community, we are going to have to make adjustments in living with the virus, and that's something that we will continue to do. And all of the businesses that have reopened, they have reopened with these various safety and sanitation measures in place. And Phil, take the first question.
Sure. The exact number was $765,900.
This is for Mayor Demings. You've given quite a bit of answers on the convention center, but let me ask a couple more. Sorry.
Okay.
Have you given any thought to perhaps just canceling the expansion, the $605 million expansion, because of the uncertainty of the convention business? And if not, why not?
The short answer is yes. The more comprehensive answer is we have a lot of uncertainty. So there has been no decision to cancel the entire project. What we have are plans where we could phase the expansion because we have really already broken ground on the project itself. And the cost of construction right now is relatively low. So fortunately, we do have healthy reserves, and we believe that from January to March, we were clipping along at a record pace. In fact, our fiscal year actually started October 1. So those first few months of our fiscal year, from October 1 through mid-March, we were doing fine. We were moving along at a record pace. So since March, you've seen a steady decline, and you heard the Comptroller say that the month of May likely is going to be another miserable month for it. That's no surprise, I think, to any of us because, you've been here. You know that our hotels and our businesses were shut down, our theme parks, but you should be encouraged by the fact that they're reopening now, and that will begin to spur economic revenues for us as a community. So we will hopefully recover sooner than later. And as we move forward in an uncertain period of time, it will become clearer to us what those final decisions need to be. We don't have it all today, but as I said, the Board of County Commission has the burden of wrestling with these issues, and certainly as the mayor and the CEO for Orange County, I'm well aware of the challenges that we have before us, and I will make the right decisions on behalf of all of the people of Orange County.
William Diaz. Question is, Mayor, we have almost a week of a protest on the streets, and I've seen on TV a lot of people, nobody wearing masks. So are we prepared for an increase on positive cases in 14 days or so? And or are we planning, or you planning to create or rebuild the testing places?
We have contingency plans should we see a second wave that is worse than the first wave that we dealt with. You heard me say the other day one of the reasons why we instituted a curfew was because we saw individuals who were congregating in large crowds, irrespective of the virus. But I have to say that our community listened, and the overwhelming majority of people that I see now who are participating in these peaceful demonstrations, they are wearing a mask. They got it. At least they're listening. Now, some of them may be wearing masks for other reasons because they're trying to disguise themselves, and that's one of the unintended consequences, I think, of wearing the mask during this period of time. But we have had conversations with law enforcement. Law enforcement is doing what they do to try to identify those individuals who are involved in unlawful activity, and they will hold them accountable. They are making arrests. I can tell you that I get a daily report from the Orange County Jail, and law enforcement is making arrests for individuals who are involved in violent behavior or destruction of property. And perhaps Mayor Dyer would like to talk a little bit about what's happening in that regard from the city of Orlando. But we work really closely with Dr. Pino and his entire team to monitor those numbers. And could a spike occur? Yes, there's a possibility of that, but and we're hopeful that that will not occur. And if it does occur, then we all will be able to, through the contact tracing that the Department of Health does, they will be able to track back where that cluster may have occurred. And if it occurred at some of these events, we'll have that information to be able to share at a later date. Okay, Mayor, I don't know if you want to opine on any of the other issues.
No, I'll just reiterate what I said during my earlier remarks, is that there are going to be people gathering, and they're gathering peacefully, and they're gathering for a social purpose, and I would hope that they do wear masks. I've had an opportunity to spend hours and hours and hours watching them as they have demonstrated, and I would say, I hate to put a number on it, but I'd say 70 or 80% of the people are wearing masks, or at least in the last two nights.
Mayor Dyer, you can stay up there. This question is geared towards you. This is from Nikki Zizaza from WKMG. How long will the downtown 8 p.m. curfew be in effect? And what consideration are you making for bars downtown expected to reopen on Friday when an 8 p.m. curfew is in place following Governor DeSantis' Phase 2 reopening announcement earlier today?
We will revisit the usefulness of an 8 p.m. curfew on a daily basis. So for now, it's in place indefinitely, but we will make that announcement on a daily basis.
Thank you. This next one is from Lauren Seabrook for you, Dr. Pino. When asked about a spike during the task force meeting, you said you were not seeing one yet. In your expert opinion, do you feel we're on the verge of a spike or a second wave?
No. On the way, possibly. The numbers have increased, and some days, it's very unstable. Some days go higher than the prior day, but a weekly tally is telling us that the number has increased a little bit. Sometime the last week that we have full testing data was last week, and increased 17% with respect to the prior week. But some weeks also have negative growth, so it's really all over the place. I think what is critical is to observe the social distancing, the masking, washing your hands, and protects people who are most at risk for poor outcomes.
Dr. Pino, this next one is for you as well, from Jennifer Marcial from the El Sentinel, and she would like this translated in Spanish as well. Dr. Pino, is there any local concern with COVID cases rising now with all the protests happening and the parks reopening? Also, with the bars opening and people not wearing masks while outside and drinking, what is the recommendation, and how is the county getting ready for a possible incrementa in cases?
So they want to respond in Spanish? Oh, God. Okay. With regard to the last question, the way that we are preparing for a possible spike is we are in a better position with the distribution of protective equipment, and we have acquired some that will prepare us for that. We also changed a little bit our testing strategy. We are not doing massive testing like we used to, meaning the health department, and we are more focused on outbreak testing that I think will help us to curtail and control any massive expansion and transmission of the pandemic. And we also have going to acquire new equipment that will help us to do testing and results very rapidly.
And this next question could be geared towards you or Mayor Demings. This is from Jesse Canales with News 13. The COVID Tracking Project Fund found, despite being only 26% of the population in Florida being Hispanic, 26% of the population in Florida, Hispanics make up 43% of the state's COVID-19 cases and 24% of coronavirus-related deaths. What is the county doing to address this issue, and how is it helping the Hispanic community suffering from a high unemployment rate, poverty, and a need for hunger relief?
I think there's no question that pre-COVID there were healthcare disparities within America, and that existed right here within the state of Florida. So pretty fortunate. Two of the board members who serve with me here with Orange County are here, Commissioner Myra Uribe and Commissioner Maribel Gomez-Cordero. One thing that we do have here within Orange County is a very diverse board of commissioners that is very reflective of our community. And I know that each one of our colleagues are concerned about dealing with the healthcare disparities. Our goal is to eradicate that. And so through our programs and our public policy, you will see us institute policies to be able to deal with that. That's a long-term strategy to ensure that there's equal access to quality jobs, to high-wage jobs, to adequate training programs, to access to workforce housing that is affordable. And so we have an affordable housing strategy here within Orange County to address that. And so we're dealing with that from a long-term perspective. And so through having diverse representation, I believe that you will ensure that you have the right sensitivity of government officials who in the public policy decision-making process, and they do so on behalf of all of those constituents that you just identified. So we want everyone to be able to have equal access here. In terms of specifically within the healthcare system, I think Dr. Pino is probably better qualified to answer that question. He's an epidemiologist, so I'll let him respond to that.
No, the mayor was right on point. It's not that the COVID has created disparity. It's that COVID has amplified disparities and make it visible for everyone. For the longest time, public health officials has been drumming about health disparities and inequalities in our society that are placing people at risk for poor health outcomes. And then a pandemic like this come, and it doesn't discriminate. It just got ravaged through your population. Of course, those who have no health insurance, no access to primary care, chronic conditions that not be controlled, diabetes, hypertension, and other chronic disease are at a higher risk to die from a condition like this.
Dr. Pino, that last question we didn't have translated to Spanish from Jennifer Marcial from the El Sentinel. She goes, Dr. Pino, just to answer in Spanish, if there is any local concern with COVID cases rising now with all the protests happening and the parks reopening.
En español, sí, por supuesto que tenemos preocupación con el número de personas que están en las calles y están en contacto cercano y tocándose y gritando y expresando sus derechos. Pero al mismo tiempo lo podemos hacer de una manera en la cual nos protejamos y protejamos a otros. Y lo sabemos qué es lo que hay que hacer. Hay que ponerse una máscara, hay que mantener distancia, hay que lavarse las manos. Y las concentraciones, por supuesto, que nos preocupan. Y en 2 o 3 semanas sabremos cuáles son los resultados de este tipo de.
Thank you. I have just two more. This one's for you, Mayor Demings, from Melissa Thomas with Florida National News. Several states have reported more quiet streets and fewer riots and credit the curfews. What are your thoughts on the Orange County protests from last weekend to now, and have you seen a difference since the curfew was reissued?
I believe that within the last 48 to 72 hours, we have seen less property damage or destruction during that period of time. While we have seen some batteries on law enforcement officers and some other inappropriate conduct, I believe that it is at a relatively low rate. Mayor Dyer, I know he's monitoring most of the demonstrations have occurred within the city limits of Orlando, and he's been dealing with that. So, Mayor, from your perspective, if you could respond, I believe that it would be appropriate.
Yeah, I'm extremely proud both of our law enforcement officers and those who have peacefully protested over the course of the last 4 days. Really, the only time that we have had issues is as they're closing down and people have started to throw rocks and bottles at police officers, and we have to use some tear gas at that point, but it's probably 1%. We had probably 5,000 people in the protest yesterday, and it was the last 100 or so that were still there at curfew that caused some issues. So 99% of the people have protested peacefully and respectfully. So I anticipate that we will continue on that track. And I appreciate the countywide 10 p.m. curfew because there was a lot of traffic on social media about looting the Mall of Millennia, for instance, or other business establishments. And they tried the first night and were thwarted. And last night there was very, very little activity after 10 o'clock, and it's because the good people are staying inside and we can spot the people that are wanting to cause damage.
The reason why you see heavy presence of law enforcement is to provide a safe place for those who want to peacefully demonstrate to be able to do so. That small demographic who is there to just tear up the place and to invoke violence into the commentary, that's a small group of people. And so law enforcement is there to deal with them, not the law-abiding citizens. And so I think in order to have people be able to express their constitutional rights, in this case, it requires a law enforcement presence to be able to do so.
And lastly, Mayor, for you, Mayor Demings, a lot of reporters have been asking about the possibility of the RNC convention coming here. Has there been any contact, and what does the landscape look like at this time?
We have not been contacted at all by anyone officially from the RNC about moving the convention here. So anything that you hear is just mere speculation at this point. But in order for us to make a decision to host such a convention, we would need to know a lot of the specifications about what is required. There will be significant costs to host it, especially in the current environment that we find ourselves in as a nation. Okay, I believe that the convention will likely have a lot of demonstrations and protests there. And so any community that endeavors to host it, they got to take the good with the bad. And there will be significant costs there, and I would not ask my commissioners to support bringing it here if we didn't think that we could be reimbursed 100% of the cost of hosting it. And that's a big unknown, and no one has reached out to us. So I know that the governor made a statement earlier today that Orlando will be a wonderful place because he was here. And under ideal circumstances, perhaps he's right, but again, we will be doing so in a period of dealing with a pandemic, et cetera. There are many communities have hosted these political conventions, and at the end of it, they were never made whole. And when we have an economic crisis, we have our financial challenges, to make that kind of commitment, it means a financial commitment. And I'm not ready to do that at this point until I have all the details. And no one has contacted me on that about that. And Mayor Dyer, have they contacted you?
No, they have not.
Okay, they haven't contacted either one of us, so we don't know anything about it. So, okay. All right, so if there are no questions, let's see, the mic is over here. If there are no other questions, for those of you who are Spanish-speaking media, if we did not answer your questions, we do have a couple of our commissioners here. We can do one-on-ones if there's something else that we need to do at this time. But thank you all for coming and being here today.